Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world and what time you're tuning into this broadcast. Currently, I'm in France on a very rainy day. I know I'm silhouetted by this image, which you're not supposed to do, but I love it so much that I couldn't resist. The church tower in the background and the Pyrenees in the distance. This is not my home. I'm taking care of it for someone else for the 6 weeks that I'm here. Now, the reason that I'm taping this instead of doing it live is because Robin and I have been on our computers all week and have suffered a lot of outages and stutters and getting booted off and various problems due to the massive cyber attacks that are going on all over Europe right now around the Ukraine-Russia war. I think about Winston Churchill's beautiful speech where he said, "We will fight them on the land, we will fight them on the sea, we will fight them in the air," but he certainly never said, "We will fight them on the internet." So rather than risk an internet outage and having you suffer through that, I decided to record it to try to get around that. And even so, this is my third attempt to record this because I'm having various internet issues that we don't normally experience. Now, I want to share my PowerPoint real quickly here. Let's see if I can get this up. Here we go. Yes. So this event is titled "A Pause and Cause for Peace. Be the change you want to see." I was delighted to be invited to participate because this really hits me in the heart of who I am and the work that I do in the world. Now, when I was in grad school, the individual I studied the most was Carl Jung. You may know his name. And I'd like to share a meaningful quote from Dr. Jung. He said, "The world hangs by a thin thread, and that thread is the psyche of man." Nowadays, we are not threatened by elemental catastrophes, and by that he meant, tornadoes and earthquakes and hurricanes, which of course with climate change we are experiencing, but perhaps not to the degree that they were back in the Stone Ages. But what he says is that we, meaning human beings, are the great danger. The psyche is the great danger. He says, what if something goes wrong with the psyche? And so it is demonstrated in our day what the power of the psyche is, how important it is to know something about it, but we know nothing. Now, Jung was one of the founding fathers of psychology, and I think in the century since his time, we've come a long way, partly due to his influence, of beginning to understand the psyche. And my sense is that everybody involved with this broadcast, the coaches and the leaders, have some sense of getting in touch with psyche and having a relationship with it. And that brings us to the idea of the pause. I think when we pause, it's an opportunity to come into relationship with our inner self, with psyche, and to recognize the images, the voices, the ideas that are going on in there. So now I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'd like to introduce you to a volunteer who has graciously permitted me to invite him in. Robin, would you like to come on screen and introduce yourself briefly?
Hi, I'm Robin Wily, and I'm here as a volunteer.
Okay. So, Robin, let me pose this to you. How on earth do we talk about a week like the one that we've had? I mean, there's a war in Ukraine. I mean, it's a senseless, horrifying war. Already over 1 million refugees are fleeing, and there's absolutely no reason whatsoever for this. It's impacting and even destroying the lives of millions upon millions of people, certainly in the Ukraine and Russia, but also beyond, for no reason but the psychology of one man and all of his cronies. So I'm wondering, how do we make sense of this? And is there any way to metabolize all that we're living through? Now, I know I just threw a whole lot of tumultuous ideas at you, but I'm going to invite you, if you're willing, to close your eyes and go into a meditation and invite your unconscious to give you an image that represents what's going on in the world today. I see you already have your eyes closed, so I'll invite you to feel yourself floating in darkness, cool, refreshing darkness. And when you feel ready, please invite your unconscious to give you an image to represent what's going on in the world right now.
I have an image.
Okay, if you could speak up a little bit, and if you don't mind describing it for us all.
The image that I have is like a giant metal net that's sort of spread over the land, sort of hanging in the sky, and it's just sort of, as far as the eye can see, there's this giant net sort of settling down from above, and it's entrapping everybody. So we're all struggling to try and get free of this net, but it's made of steel or something, and it's very hard to get out of. That's what it feels like to me.
So we're all trapped in this image. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very powerful image. So it's a little strange, and I don't know if you're willing, but if you were to treat the net as a human being and introduce yourself to this net, would you be willing to do that?
Yes, I can see that there's like a face in the center of the net above me.
Great. So introduce yourself to the net and ask the net what name would it like to go by.
It says, "Call me Mr. Gray."
Call me Mr. Gray. Interesting. And how do you feel as you are interacting with this image? Is it menacing or friendly, or what's the emotional tone?
It feels menacing, but it seems to be menacing in a sort of almost an offhand way, as though it's not really angry, it's not really fierce, it's just sort of doing something that it just does without any emotional content.
Okay. So if you're willing, ask Mr. Gray, what does it want from you?
He says, "I want you to stay still."
How does it feel to hear that?
Very threatening and very constraining. I don't like having my freedom restricted. I like to be able to move around and go places and see things. And for him to say that just stifles me.
Okay. Tell that to Mr. Gray. Tell him that's the impact that he has on you. Let me know what he says in response.
He says, "I can't have you all running around doing whatever you want to do."
So he's trying to control everybody and keep things under control. Yeah.
Yeah.
So ask Mr. Gray, what does he need from you?
He says, "I need you to settle down and do your job."
And how does it feel to hear that?
Again, very conflicted, very constrained, because I don't need to settle down to do my job. I can do my job anywhere. I don't need to be in one place.
Right, right. So ask Mr. Gray, what wisdom does he have to share with you?
He just says, don't run so fast.
And how is that affecting you?
Well, at my age, I suppose it's wise words. I shouldn't be trying to do too many things too often and too dramatically. I should probably be taking it a little more easy. Maybe that's what it's all about. It's just slowing down slightly.
So he's telling you specifically to slow down. Is he telling the world to slow down?
Well, he's addressing me specifically, but maybe he's addressing the whole world because I seem to be the only one talking to him.
Right. Ask him whether he has any wisdom to share around this Ukraine-Russia conflict.
Okay. Again, he says, people are moving too fast.
There's some truth to that, isn't there? Interesting. Robin, is there anything else that you would like to ask Mr. Gray?
Yeah, I think I'm going to ask him, when are you going to leave us alone? And he says, once you've all slowed down and come to your senses.
How does it feel to hear that?
Well, I sort of grudgingly have to agree with him because I think there's just, in the world at the moment, there's too many people moving too fast and doing things in a unplanned way and causing all kinds of problems as a result. And so maybe there needs to be a little more thoughtfulness and planfulness in people's lives at the moment.
Okay. Robin, I don't have much time. I would love to spend a lot more time with Mr. Gray to get more information out of him. Are you willing to leave it there for now for the sake of time?
Yes, I understand that. Yes.
So could you thank Mr. Gray for speaking with us and let him know you might be talking to him again later?
I can do that.
So when you're ready, I'm going to count from 3 to 1. And at the count of 1, you'll be back in the present moment, remembering everything you wish from this brief adventure. So 3, take a deep breath, let it in, feel your body becoming energized. 2, wiggle your fingers and toes and know that you're in a room somewhere and it's very specific. And 1, open your eyes, refreshed and alert. Welcome back. Now, Robin, normally at this point, as you know, I would have you draw an image of what Mr. Gray looked like and how he felt to you. But I think for the sake of time, I might skip that for now. You might wish to do that on your own. Is that all right with you?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So did you get anything, any special insights from having done that visualization?
Yeah, I think, as I say, the main insight I got was probably that I need to be cautious of moving too fast, that I'm not as young as I used to be and that I can't do some of the things that I used to do when I was younger. And so I have to be aware of that and just sort of take it more easy.
And does that give you any insights on this conflict in the Ukraine right now? I'm curious.
Well, again, it seems like I think people are moving too fast. Obviously, Putin has decided that he's going to jump in and try to take over Ukraine, and the Ukrainians are moving quickly to block him, which is probably appropriate under the circumstances. And certainly a lot of people around the world are moving quickly to offer aid and so on. But I'm just wondering, are they really thinking about what they're doing? Are they doing it in a thoughtful way, or are they just doing it as a knee-jerk reaction? That's what comes up for me.
So it's interesting what you're saying there, because I want to relate it to the event that we're participating in, where we are talking about the pause. We're talking about that moment of slowing down and being at choice and being conscious about what we're doing. And it feels like that's precisely the advice that Mr. Gray is giving to you. Does that sound right to you?
It does. I hadn't put that together, but you're right. That makes a lot of sense.
Great, great. So Robin, I'll invite you later on if you'd like to get out some drawing utensils and make a picture of Mr. Gray in his honor. But for now, I'm going to bring this to a close. Thank you so much for being a volunteer. I know that was pretty rapid and a little more directive than I normally do, but I'm hoping that you got something valuable out of it. Okay, so with that, I'll invite you to go ahead and come off camera. And then I want to speak to everybody and say, this is what we do. All of the leaders and coaches in this space have their own techniques and tricks and tactics for having people come into relationship with psyche, to take that pause, to find that wisdom. So I'm going to share my screen once more very quickly, if I can, if it lets me. There it is. Okay. So that was a pause. You got to see us actually embodying a pause. So I'm doing an event at the end of the month for the Association of Psychological Types International. That's one of the ways that I connect with psyche. My website is drvickyjo.com, and I have a QR code here. If you point your cell phone at that QR code and take a picture of it, it'll take you to my website. You can sign up for my newsletter, and I will be notifying people of this free event I'll be doing for the Association of Psychological Type later in March. And you can also keep up with my crazy travels all over the world in my newsletter that comes out once a week. So thank you so much for participating in this pause with Robin and I today. I hope you got something valuable for yourself. Feel free to try this on your own. It's better when you have someone facilitate you, which is why, you know, coaches are so invaluable. But certainly try it out and then draw your own picture and see what psyche has to say to you. So I'll leave it there for now. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.